attentively, scrawled notes down on a paper pad. Skulking unobtrusively some 20 yards away, a second man observed this scene with interest. He was a good deal taller and much stronger than the first, but less extravagantly dressed. He was doing his best to remain inconspicuous. His vantage point, the lobby of Broadway's Grand Hotel, was well suited to this purpose. It was crowded and less well lit than the street outside, and by pressing himself flat against a wall, the man could keep a close eye on the garden with little chance of being seen himself. He had done this sort of thing often enough to learn patience, and after a while he was grimly pleased to note that a third young woman had walked up to the table in the restaurant. The newcomer was even more striking than the chorus girls, exceptionally beautiful, her pretty mobile face framed by a mass of startling dark red curls. She was wearing a simple shirtwaist, a fitted blouse with mannish collar and cuffs that neatly displayed her figure, and she slid into the seat beside the man with greasy hair. He greeted her enthusiastically. Now the watcher knew that he was right. He pulled out a pocket watch and checked the time. It was approaching 2 a.m. The watching man did not have long to wait. The little group around the table broke up only a few minutes later, when one of the dancers rose to leave and the young man in the straw hat offered to escort her to a streetcar stop about 100 yards away. The other two girls loitered on the nearest corner, waiting for him. When their companion returned, he seemed lost in thought, head down, eyes fixed on the sidewalk, and only half aware of a pair of late-night revelers lurching down the road ahead of him. These men reeled up to the redhead and the chorus girl and passed them rather close. Perhaps a few words were exchanged. At once, a loud commotion snapped the young man from his reverie. The tall figure of the watcher from the Grand Hotel had materialized behind the girls and seized both by their wrists. They screamed out in surprise and fear, twisting desperately to see who had accosted them, but their captor would not release his hold. After a few seconds of struggle, the redhead's imprisoned arm went limp, and she burst into tears. The wildest and most hysterical sobbing, her male companion thought, that he had ever heard. The girl's captor stared down at her, his wide mouth cracked into a grin. To the young man who had sat with her in the garden, hurrying now toward her over the road, he seemed picturesque as a wolf, his face a study in triumph. The wolf fixed both girls with his gaze. "Come to the station house," he said. "You are under arrest for soliciting two men." His name was Charley Becker, and he was a New York City cop. Becker was not much older than the women he was arresting. He had only just turned 26 and was an unusual policeman. Most Manhattan patrolmen of the day were stocky, street-smart Irishmen in their 30s or early 40s, brave when called upon, perhaps, but swaggering, casually brutal, and all too frequently corrupt. Men of this sort, with 10 or more years' service on the streets, were princes of the city. Left to patrol their beats largely unsupervised, they became intimately familiar with the local tavern keepers, street vendors, and crooks, and few were above pocketing $1 here and there for overlooking harmless violations, nor accepting a pint of beer and a free meal from saloons that remained open after closing time. Becker, in contrast, came from a German family, which made him Dutch in the police parlance of the day, and an exotic rarity in a force still then more than 2/3 Irish. Standing 6 feet 2 inches in his socks, he towered over most of his contemporaries. In a department all too often officered by men of few brains and less imagination, he was also markedly intelligent. With fewer than 3 years' service to his name, Becker was scarcely more than a rookie. Still, months pounding a beat on the streets of Manhattan, weeks of after-hours plainclothes duty in New York's 19th precinct, and long nights swapping stories with colleagues in the nearby station house had begun to teach harsh truths about the city. Now Becker's police career had reached a fork familiar to every officer. He could try to be an honest and upstanding cop, stick strictly to the rules, and stay untainted by corruption, or, more likely and far easier, he could yield to the temptations of the entertainment district. Already Becker's